Hey guys, this is Gaijin Hunter. If you're playing Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate, you may have made the fantastic Joe Cena set. That gives you sharpness plus 2, razor sharp, and a ton of slots to play with. I have a link for that set in the description down below. Now most people just make the Atal Ka weapons and call it a day, but in this video I wanted to open your eyes to another line of weapons that goes from horrible to amazing with these two armor skills. That line is none other than the Bone series. The Bone weapons are great in low rank due to their raw damage, but in high rank the Iron series takes the lead thanks to better tiers of sharpness. But in Generations Ultimate they do allow you to upgrade any weapon to G rank strength, and the Bone weapons have one final upgrade which brings them back to glory thanks to sharpness plus 2. In this video I'm going to be covering all the different Bone series weapons for the melee weapons, not the gunner. And as you can see here, they don't look that good. They have high raw, but they don't really have good sharpness. But if you use sharpness plus 1 and especially plus 2, they do become monsters and very viable weapons. Okay, starting things out is the Bone Splitter, which is the Great Sword. With sharpness plus 2, that purple right there is 20 units, which is more than enough for Great Sword. That allows you to do 20 hits before you lose your sharpness. 360 attack is top tier, and remember purple does give you a 39% damage increase versus 32% from white sharpness. Next up is the longsword called the Oversized Bone. This one I have to admit I'm not a fan of. Not only does the design look kind of bad, but as you can see here it does get some healthy blue sharpness with 370, which is super high attack, and minus 15% affinity, but there's really nothing here to define it. I think there's a lot better choices, so I want to recommend one for you now, which is the Rarity 1 series of the Dark Scythe. This thing has a final upgrade which really looks similar to the other Bone weapons in that it gets really good sharpness plus 2, 360 attack with only minus 10% affinity, and it looks cool as heck. Now for the Sword and Shield there are actually two lines of Bone weapons, but I'm going to be focusing on the Tabar weapons. The final form being the Bonebreaker Tabar. If you notice here 360 attack is top tier, only 10% minus affinity, and really good purple sharpness. That's 40 units there, which is more than enough for the Sword and Shield, especially with razor sharp. That's 80 hits you can do before you lose that sharpness. Next up is the Dual Blades, which is the Commander's Scythes. These things do look really cool. 370 attack is stupidly high. No minus affinity at all on this thing, but the sharpness plus 2, I admit, the purple really isn't quite enough for Dual Blades. That's only 20 units right there. So like the longsword, there is another Rarity 1 weapon which is awesome, which is the Azeroth line, which is the Oeyama Axes. These things are 350 attack, which is very high for the weapon, and at just sharpness plus 1 they sport 50 units of white. At plus 2 it's 65 units, plus 10 units of purple up at the top there, so these things will hold their white sharpness for quite a long time. Very cool weapons, very easy to make. Moving on, we have the hammer, which is called the Bone Crusher. Now that is 20 units of purple, which is more than enough for hammer. 350 attack, and this one does come with a bonus 2 slots as well, which is definitely useful because you might want to be doing stuff like adding in focus for fast charging and stuff like that. Again, just one thing to keep in mind is how easy these weapons are to make. They're much easier to make than a lot of the other weapons. Not only are they a good placeholder, but they're also very good general use weapons as well. Next up is the Hunting Horn. This also sports 20 units of purple attack with sharpness plus 2, 350 attack with 2 bonus slots, and the songs it comes with is attack up S, earplugs S, negate cold, heat, and snowman. So pretty good set right there with the songs as well. Again, really good damage dealing for this type of weapon. Next up, one of my favorite weapons, the Lance, and here we have the Heavy Bone Lance. 360 attack is crazy high, no slots, no affinity. It gets 20 units of purple with sharpness plus 2, and remember if you're using this with Joe Cena, you're also getting razor sharp, so that counts as 40 units of sharpness, which is definitely workable, especially with the Absolute Readiness skill, which will automatically sharpen your weapon. Next up we have the Gunlance. This is called the Traditional Gunlance. It also comes with 20 units of purple sharpness, which I know is not a whole lot for the Gunlance, but it is 360 attack, which is fabulous raw damage, and it comes with a level 4 normal type shot. All around I think it's a pretty balanced weapon because you can use both the pokes with the high attack, and of course your shots are going to be doing a lot of damage as well. Moving on to the axes, we have the Switch Axe with the Ikaros Axe. This also gets 20 units of sharpness for purple if you have sharpness plus 2, 350 attack, and to sweeten the deal, its type is that of power. Speaking of power, we have the Charge Blade and the Bonebreaker Veil. I actually like the design of this weapon quite a bit. You get 20 units of sharpness with sharpness plus 2 for the purple, 350 attack, you do get 2 bonus slots, which is awesome, no affinity, and it is an impact type, which is everyone's favorite. Of course, being an impact type, it's really good that raw damage is that high, and I'm sure you're going to be able to use those slots to buff it even further. And finishing out the melee weapons, we have the Insect Glaive, which is the Volant. I think that's how you pronounce it. For this one, you are going to get 20 units of purple and 45 of white, which is really good. So for this weapon, I actually recommend you just use white once you break into it. 330 attack is very decent, 2 slots, and it does come with the impact type of Kinsect. So overall, it doesn't have the incredible raw as some of the other weapons, but it is still very high and a well-balanced weapon. And that's that. I know a lot of you guys have been wondering why I haven't done like a top 10 weapons for all the different types in Monster Hunter Generations Ultimate. It's because there's like over 110, 120 final type weapons for every single type, which means there is a best weapon for every permutation you want, whether it's high raw with low affinity, high affinity with medium raw, high element, no element, like you name it, slots, no slots. I would have to do like a top 30 or something, which honestly I don't think there's much value in doing. Anyways, I hope this opened your eyes that there are a bunch of weapons that turn from something that is mediocre into something that's very, very viable when you use a skill such as Sharpness +1, but especially Sharpness +2. The Octal Call weapons are all across the board fantastic, but they are not the only good weapons in the game, so definitely do some experimentation, figure out ones that you like. Let me know down in the comments below what other sort of Rarity 1 or Rarity 2 weapons you find that are very good in the end game and you personally enjoy. Hope you guys enjoyed this video, and until next time, happy hunting.